Africa Dawn begins in Kampala, the capital of Uganda. We have 3 nights here. We then head west towards the Ruwenzori Mountains, which form the border with Congo. And after 2 nights at Queen Elizabeth National Park, we head south, across the equator, through the Rift Valley and onto the Virunga mountain range where we trek to see the gorillas. And after 2 nights in Rwanda, we head north to Addis Ababa, the capital of Ethiopia, and the next stage of the journey. The tour starts with an exciting flight from Dubai over Lake Victoria and onto the city of Entebbe. Because this city lies on Lake Victoria, it's an ideal place to build an airport. New roads ensure that we arrive at the Speke Resort in less than 45 minutes. Uganda has many first-class resorts, but the Speke is something special. It lies on the shores of Lake Victoria and was opened in 2007. It's a beautiful place to spend our first 3 nights and start of the Africa Dawn tour. Kampala, the capital of Uganda, is the very essence of Africa. This city of 2 million people is home not just to Ugandans, but Congolese, Sudanese, Rwandese, Tanzanians and many more. This is the main bus station and taxi rank of the city, an example of how bustling it is. This is Nakasero Market. It reflects Uganda's rich soil and agriculture. Everything here is organically grown. On one of the days that we're in Kampala, we take a day trip to Jinja. This is the source of the White Nile. It will take 3 months for the river to flow all the way through to Khartoum, where it will join the Blue Nile and then the main Nile through to Alexandria in Egypt. This is where the White Nile flows out of Lake Victoria via an underground spring. And this is the exact spot where John Hanning Speke stood on the 3rd of August 1858 to declare he had discovered the source of the Nile. After 3 nights in Kampala, we start to head west towards the Ruwenzori Mountains and the Kibale Rainforest. This national park is 800 square kilometers. It is the largest in East Africa. It contains 13 species of primates, including 1,500 chimpanzees. The park is flat and it makes for an easy trek to see the chimpanzees. After our chimp adventure, we head towards the Ruwenzori Mountains, crossing the equator line in the Rift Valley. We then enter Queen Elizabeth National Park and on to our home for the next 2 nights, Mwea Safari Lodge. The property lies on the Kasinga Channel that links Lake George and Lake Edward. Queen Elizabeth National Park was opened up in 1952 and consists of 2,000 square kilometres of savanna. The park lies in the shadow of the Ruwenzori Mountains. Behind these mountains is Congo. The park is also very famous for these tree lions, one of the few places in the world where they can be found. One of the highlights of our stay at Mwea Lodge is a boat ride on the Kasinga Channel. The bird life on the channel is amazing and ornithologists come from all over the world to see the spectacle. It is also the largest concentration of hippopotami in the world. What is really fascinating is that there are many villages dotted along the channel, but animals and humans have found a way to live in harmony. Leaving the park behind, we head south towards Lake Bunyonyi, but on the way we visit a school that Travel Directors have been sponsoring for more than 5 years. Since we started our sponsorship, the school has grown from 50 pupils to more than 500 today. After our visit to the school, we continue south and on to Lake Bunyonyi. This lake comprises of 29 islands and is one of the deepest in the world. In the morning time it looks like a John Constable painting as the mists rise. We spend 1 night at Lake Bunyonyi and we explore several of the 29 islands within the lake. Some of these islands are home to pygmies and it provides a fascinating visit. Next day we head towards the Virunga mountain ranges. 8 volcanoes are home to the mountain gorillas, and they straddle the borders of Congo, Rwanda and Uganda. We will trek to see the gorillas from the Ugandan side, and this is a beautiful lodge where we stay for 2 nights. This is Bwindi Impenetrable Forest on the lower slopes of the volcano. It is home to 600 gorillas, half of the world's population. This is the morning that we trek to see one of 12 mountain gorilla families. Seeing the gorillas is strictly controlled, and only 8 people per group can go to see one family. Gorillas can move up to 50 kilometers per day, but the mornings are spent with the family. This is why we always trek to see the gorillas in the mornings. It's also why there is a time restriction. We are allowed a maximum of 1 hour with the gorillas. All of the families have names. This is the Mubari family, and this silverback is 248 kilos. To watch the gorillas in their natural habitat is an awe-inspiring experience. It's like looking in the mirror at ourselves. It is one of the greatest experiences in world travel. The next day, we move across the border to Rwanda. It's a 2-hour drive to the capital, Kigali. This is what Kigali looked like in 1994, soon after the genocide. And this is a gleaming city under brilliant leadership of Kigali today. During our 2 nights in Kigali, we stay at the Serena Hotel. We always try to focus on what Rwanda has achieved since 1994. Yet, we don't ignore the genocide. This is the Genocide Memorial Museum with the Eternal Flame that overlooks the city of Kigali. And this is Kigali Airport, where we board our flight for the next stage of the African Dawn adventure. The Ethiopian section of the journey starts in Addis Ababa. It then moves on to Bahir Dar on the south side of Lake Tana. We cross the lake to Gonda. We then head on to the holy city of Axum and on to the rock-hewn churches of Lalibela. For the final twist of the journey, we take a flight back to Addis Ababa and on to Eritrea, the North Korea of Africa. This is Addis Ababa. It lies at an altitude of 2,400 meters. It is the 4th highest city in the world. It's a city of 5 million people, bustling, where a skyline changes almost every month. During our 2 nights here, we visit the National Museum. It houses the most famous skeleton in the world, Lucy, 3.4 million years old. The timing of the Africa Dawn Tour is determined by an extraordinary event, Timket Festival, 19th of January. It's celebrated all over Ethiopia, and it's a national festival, the biggest of the year. It symbolises the baptism of Jesus Christ by John the Baptist in the River Jordan. Mass is celebrated early in the morning, and when the priests have blessed the water, they spray it onto a crowd of up to 1 million people. This is what makes Ethiopia so unique in Africa and the world: Orthodox Christianity that is 2,000 years old. After the Timket Festival, we board our flight for Bahir Dar. And one of the 2 days that we spend here, we go to see the source of the Blue Nile. This river supplies 85% of the waters to the Nile when it finally meets the White Nile in Khartoum. The next day we leave Bahidar and cross Lake Tana from south to north to the city of Gondar. This is the principal reservoir of the Blue Nile, and it is rich in silt, hence the yellow colour. And nearly all of the silt will end up in the fertile Nile Valley. The lake has 37 islands, each with its own monastery. Many of these monasteries have superb examples of ancient Ethiopian icon art. After visiting 3 of the monasteries, we arrive in Gondar in the early afternoon. Gondar has a population of 500,000 and lies on the edge of the Simien Mountains. During our time in the city, we stay here for 2 nights at the very famous Inn of the Four Sisters. Gondar is known as the Camelot of Ethiopia and is dominated by the 16th century castle right in the middle of the city. When we leave Gondar for Axum, we drive straight through the heart of the Simien Mountains. These beautiful outcrops are home to the Gelada baboon, one of the rarest animals on our planet and found only in the Ethiopian highlands. Unlike its closest relative, the baboon, they do not live in trees. They're distinguished by their red chest and elongated jaw. After seeing the Geladas, we continue through the Simien Mountains, crossing a pass at 3,250 meters before we descend into the city of Axum. One of the most spectacular drives in the world has taken us 6.5 hours to complete. The holiest city in Ethiopia is home to the Ark of the Covenant. This is the building where it's housed, and this is the guard who will protect it for the rest of his life. It is also home to these mysterious obelisks. They're called stelae. They're more than 3,000 years old, and we believe that they were burial sites. They have inscriptions, but we no longer have the ability to read them. Axum was also home to the Queen of Sheba. This was once her palace, and this was once her baths. After our 2-night stay in Axum, we board a Bombardier 400 for the short flight over the mountains into Lalibela, the most visited city in all of Ethiopia. King Lalibela constructed 11 rock-hewn churches in the 12th century. They are known as monolithic, the word meaning simply from one stone. No nails or carpentry were used. At the time they were created by master craftsmen. The churches are connected by underground passages symbolizing heaven and hell. His intention was to make Lalibela the New Jerusalem. This is St. George Church. Once there was a mountain here, and they carved from the mountain from the top down and from the bottom up to create this masterpiece in 3 years. After 2 nights in Lalibela, we fly to Asmara, the North Korea of Africa. Asmara is often described as a little Rome, and indeed, the avenues are tree-lined, beautifully maintained and immaculately clean. There is an abundance of Italian architecture, and they're proud of this heritage. Look at this Art Deco building of the Fiat service station. Ice cream parlours and coffee shops dot the city landscape. Yet the war with Ethiopia is never far away. This is an open-air museum of destroyed military hardware collected from all over the country from that war. When we leave Asmara, we take an incredibly built Italian road, well maintained, and we drop 2,300 meters through 3 temperate zones to Massawa on the Red Sea coast. Massawa is reminiscent of old Havana. This ancient Red Sea port is a combination of coral architecture and beautiful Ottoman houses. Eritrea is a spectacular end to what is a magnificent 28-day tour of Africa.